Figured I'd show you the other modification I did to the stove. It's not so much a modification, but an addition. The way this stove works, as you can see, the two of these panels have little slots in them that correspond with tabs in the base of the stove. And you just kind of roll it, fit it into the tabs, and it fits together like that, which is great, except if you pull on this too hard or bump it, or something shifts, it's pretty easy for this tab to come out, which can cause the whole stove to collapse. That's not good. You can see this. This tab is actually folded over. So there's kind of a channel running through there. So all I did, you can see that, was take a bobby pin, include it with a kit, and I just push that through there. And now it's not going anywhere. It's not coming apart. It doesn't add any weight to the kit. It's cheap. Now you can get gobs of them for a couple of bucks. And it just makes this a really solid setup. So just wanted to show that to you. You guys should all be pretty familiar with how the Trangia works. Nothing special here. Take your lid off. I'll pour in about an ounce. A cap full of this is about an ounce of alcohol. Put the lid on temporarily, unless you're pouring it while it's inside the stove, it can leak. Put that in there. Pop the top off. This would be helpful if I had something to boil. If I showed this to you before or not, it's got two gradations here. There's a line here and a line here. So 1/4 liter and a 1/2 liter capacity. There's pretty good amount of capacity to the cup. I'm just going to fill it up to the 1/4 liter mark. The heck with it. There, we'll do a full 1/2 liter on each. And since this is part of the kit that I do use, I'm going to use the heavy cover lid. You can start this up however you want. You can use a lighter, ferro rod, match, whatever. Doesn't make any difference. That's all it takes to light it. Throw that on top and wait for it to boil. I'm not dependent on waiting for the stove to prime to put the cup on with this configuration, so I can just put that on right away and it'll start heating as the stove is priming. And this stove doesn't take too terribly long, usually under a minute for it to prime up and get going. But I'm not going to bore you just sitting here waiting for water to boil. We'll fast forward through that. Alright, it's cooking. Not boiling yet. It's only been, I don't know, a couple of minutes, not too long. Figured I'd show you the stove in action. Nothing earth shattering. If I had to do this again all over, I think I'd only drill every other panel and see how that worked before I drilled all of them, just to give it a little more wind protection when you're using it with the alcohol stove. But yeah, whatever, just a thought. Alright guys, we are right at just short of 8 minutes, and this thing was steaming. It had light bubbles, but it wasn't a full rolling bubble. And then the stove went out. So it is currently about 32 degrees out right now. And this kit was actually sitting out in my truck overnight. I was a little half surprised that it didn't freeze. So the water was pretty cold, but you know, it is what it is. 1 ounce of fuel for the ½ liter of water that I put in here was not quite enough to bring it to a full rolling boil. That said, the point that this was at, when it stopped, I think less than a minute more and it would have gone up. So it wouldn't have taken a whole lot more fuel to get that done. But it wasn't really a boil test, just to show you how this works. At this point, it'd be easy enough to add more fuel, crank it back up. Just take your cup off, dump some more back in there, spark it back up, and finish cooking. And obviously the Trangia will, the fuel capacity of Trangia is much more than what I put in it. Oh, I don't need to boil this water to purify it. I brought it from home. And I'm gonna run this test all over again with the wood burning feature. So I'm not gonna crank this back up with the alcohol. What I am gonna do is make use of that nice hot water. Use this nice cup. Make some tea. See, at ½ liter capacity, pretty much fills this cup up. And this is one of the nice things about this kit. You know, you get this extra cup, and you can make your coffee or your tea or whatever it is you want to drink first. In this case, I'm gonna have a little tea. Let that steep for a little bit. And then you can go on to cook your soup or stew or whatever else it is that you wanted to cook. That's pretty slick. One of the nice things about this being titanium is that it doesn't stay hot for very long. So even though this thing, maybe about a minute ago, at fire, this thing was about ready to boil, it cools off pretty quick. I can pick it up, handle it, move it around. So that's how it works with the alcohol stove. This is the Trangia. Probably put whatever kind of alcohol stove you wanted in there. Work probably about the same. But I have this. Bought this thing years and years ago at a surplus store, and it works great. Haven't found anything that works any better. So this is what I've been using. Alright guys, I'm not going Captain Bushcraft on you today. I'm just going to get this thing cranked up. I've got a good initial pile of fuel there, chunk of fat wood. I'll shave some of that up, light it with a lighter, and get this thing stoked up and get it cooking. Alright, I lied. Said I wasn't going to use a ferro rod, I was just going to use my lighter, but I can't help myself. I don't know why. This just makes me happier. Alright, we're starting to get a pretty nice little bed of coals going. It's good and hot. I like to do that just because it makes it a little easier to keep going. Especially if you're not using split wood. If you're just using twigs like this, sometimes they can be a little damp and need just a little bit of extra heat to get them going how you want them to go for your fire. So, that burned down just a little bit, and put the cup on, stoke it back up, and bring it to a boil. I don't know if you can see that or not. Most of the wood that I seem to gather up is a little damp, so it isn't burning quite as hot as I would like it. A lot of times what I'll do when I make one of these is I'll gather up a bunch of small stuff, twigs, things like this size, to get things going, and then I'll take some smaller split wood that I know is dry and just have a small stack of that, kind of like you'd build just a normal fire, instead of just relying purely on twigs and stuff that you're picking up off the forest floor. You know, it's burning. I gave it enough time to build up a good bed of coals, but it's not burning as hot as it normally would be. You can see the water bubbling out of the sticks, all the smoke, and it's just simply because this wood is damp. But it's working. I think we're probably a good 10 minutes into the boil though. There's some small bubbles coming up and it's steaming, but it's not boiling yet. Alright, I had to go get a little extra wood, something different, and split it up. Even still, the wood that I split up was probably no larger than the diameter of my middle finger. But we finally got a rolling boil after is it 19 minutes? Yeah, she's going. So I certainly could have reduced that time by just choosing some better wood from the start and taking the time to properly prep it. That's what I get for trying to take a shortcut. It's a predictable result, but you know, it is what it is. Still, nothing more than stuff that I scavenged off the ground in some of the trees. That was all I used. Definitely would have gone quicker if it was drier, and I had gotten a little bit bigger stuff and split it for fuel. But that's it, man. That's how it works. That's a system that I've been using with both the alcohol and the wood. So I don't know. You certainly don't need the Crusader Cup to do this. You can do this with a USGI cup or, you know, one of those cheap $5 Walmart stainless steel cups. You know, whatever setup you choose to use. You could use an ember lit, but this is what I've got. Like I said, I had some questions about it, so I figured I'd throw together a little something showing you how it works. Alright, I'm going to let this go out, pack up my stuff, head home. Hunting season opens day after tomorrow. I got stuff to get ready. See you guys.